All right. Okay. It is Thursday, December 13th, and this is a meeting to check in on community outreach for Backdrop CMS. Let's see. Based on our website, we are supposed to be talking, or based on our agenda, we're supposed to be talking about the website first. I think there's a bunch of stuff that's been going on for the website. The main issue we have noted on here is issue note number 442, which I think I talked about last week in the design call. I've implemented a lot from Darius's initial designs for that page, which is just the layout of modules and themes. And I was able to do that by creating a new view mode rather than using a bunch of individual fields in the view. And I did that because I wanted to be able to use the search filter instead of the combine fields filter. And the search filter would just return a bunch of node IDs. And so I want to be able to render them using the view mode. And the reason I'm doing that is because the main problem with issue number 442 is the way our search results are returned is not super helpful. And so I'm trying to do a bunch of improvements to search to make the search work better. And so I wanted to leverage that result with the new design. So at any point I can push the new design, but it doesn't fix the search stuff. So I wanted to make sure I was at least able to improve the search stuff by making this change before I made any change at all. So that's what I'm hopefully going to be working on today. So we'll see how that goes. But other stuff happening on the website, thanks to a push from Doc Wilmot, we've added a bunch of fields to projects. So modules, themes, and layouts now have multi-value field for screenshots. They have a multi-value field for tags. They have a multi-value field for maintainers. I think I added a color multi-value field for color for themes. And then there's a bunch of other stuff. This is coming from an issue that is for including more information in info files. And what we're going to do first is build, well, it doesn't matter what order it happens in, as we decided. We're going to build the architecture on the website to hold the information, and then we're going to try and change the way info files work to hold the information, and then we can populate the stuff on the website. But we can have like test stuff on the website with a couple of items first to see if we can get the information to show up in the project browser or in the search, like anything we think, maybe even in the, yeah, I'm not sure about the installer. We'll have to figure out how to tie all this stuff together. We have lots of information, lots of places to put information. And we're going to try and make all of our tools for like searching and finding projects better based on it. And there's a couple more things that people have recommended in the info file issue. I didn't add fields for all of them because it looks like we didn't quite have consensus on single value versus multi-value or what to name things or et cetera. So I just sort of added the things that I knew that we needed right now. But there's no reason we can't add or change that stuff in the future. So having it added and changed on backdropcms.org is much easier than changing like the API and what's in the info file. So I think this is a great place to play with it. If you have ideas and want me to throw stuff on there, we can start there and see if that works out. So thank you, Doc Wilmot, for giving us that nudge. And anyone who wants to help us play with that, we could definitely use the help. I think he's going to start working on project module integration next, but we could also do like work on this views stuff too, like filtering and sorting by various fields. So
does that mean? Sorry, does that mean that all these new fields are automatically added to the XML or JSON file that? No?
They're not automatically added because that is part of project module. So that's what Doc Wilmot's going to be working on,
okay, cool.
is getting all of the information out of the nodes and into the feeds. And then we can start figuring out how to use that data in listings.
Yeah, I'll reach out to him because we need the promoted thing as well.
Yeah, and the promoted field is there too. We already have a promoted field on all projects. I think it's called project recommended.
Yes.
Like that. Yeah. And so that can also go into that list of fields as well.
Because this is related to the whole the respective experimental modules to what D8 has for us.
Yeah. So lots of good stuff going on. I don't have an issue for that in the agenda, but I'll put a note here so we can check in on it in 2 weeks. So the reason that's relevant for outreach is because getting the modules page cleaned up is going to help people to come to Backdrop and say, can everything my Drupal 7 site does now be done with Backdrop. And having answered those questions appear on that page, I think is going to be super handy. So getting that cleaned up is sort of top priority for me anyway. Also, there's been a recent announcement that Drupal 9 will come out on, was it June 30th, 2020? Is that right? Yeah, so a year and a half about from now, which means I would expect Drupal 7 end of life to be about 2 years from now. So I think a whole bunch of people, now that there's a date out there, are going to start doing a lot more research on Backdrop as a viable alternative. And so it'd be great if we had all these tools cleaned up and working for them in a way that was most useful. So that's kind of why I'm leaning on getting these cleaned up as soon as possible. Module project stuff. All right, next issues on the homepage, backdropcms.org. We are working on a new alternative for the demo link. I believe Nate created an on-demand demo site generator using Tugboat. I don't remember what the blockers were on that currently, but I remember it being like super close in terms of swapping out.
Last time we talked about creating a landing page for that and having something be shown at the top while for the 8 seconds that it takes to spin up the thing, like a promo video or screenshots of new features or links to recent blog posts or the release announcements.
Okay. I remember that. I thought it was less than 8 seconds, though. I thought it was something where it was like, oh, that's so short now that a video wouldn't make sense. I don't remember. Maybe it was 8 seconds, and 8 seconds was just too short for a valuable video. But I do remember talking about a landing page. I think creating a landing page is going to be pretty easy. That could either just be a layout or a node or something, and we can plunk whatever we need into it. But I don't know, like, how that needs to integrate into backdropcms.org, because ideally when you click the link on the homepage, it would fire up the demo and then automatically redirect you to the landing page, because you don't want to send people right to the landing page because then the demo won't start when they click the link originally. So there's got to be some kind of integration there. And I think Nate has a module on the backdropcms.org code base that he's done all of the Tugboat integration stuff. So I don't know if we need to, if we know we're going to have a landing page, maybe we just throw it in that module so that anyone who wants a Tugboat site will have the same sort of experience where you'll get redirected to a landing page. I don't know. I'll have to check in with him and see where we are on that and what the blockers are. I remember it being super close last time we talked about it, but that I think it was like 4 weeks ago since I talked to Nate about that, and who knows what's happened between then and now. I think could have been a lot. So we'll figure that out. But I think that's really great. We also had, the main reason Nate wanted to use Tugboat is because he wanted to have something that would be suitable for using in training classes, right? You could say, everybody go to the homepage and click the demo link, and then everyone who clicks the link gets their own site, and they can do whatever they want to it, and it disappears in 24 hours. My thought with training classes was like, actually, I prefer Pantheon because then they can keep that long term and they can refer to it later. But it really depends, because having something that, I don't know. I guess it depends on the class and the trainer or whatever you want, but having an individual thing is valuable as long as you can get back to it later. But I don't know that if you can't get back to it, like, it really is just a demo. So yeah, I don't know. There's lots of options. We also talked about porting demo module, which could be useful for other things. Like, for example, anyone who creates a theme on backdropcms.org, we could automatically fire up a site that's using that theme. That's like what WordPress does. They give you a little demo of what your site will actually look like using that theme. So I think there's still some value in having demo around and available. Maybe not for the homepage, but could be an option. It could also be another option when we get to the second page that's like, or use demo module.
That's a good thing, because there's 2 use cases there. There's people that are demoing the product with the intention to actually build a site upon that demo, and there's people that just want to quickly demo a pretty much whatever everyone was using with Simply Test Me to test a patch or a module. So I think that maybe by default we should land them to the page that prepares the Tugboat thing, and if it is actually say 5 seconds or whatever, have something at the top saying, if you want something more permanent, please use Pantheon. So if you intend to sort of like keep the site, it's as if sort of like it would be equivalent to, we're preparing a demo site for you, but it's disposable.
It'll disappear in 24. Like, I definitely think we should have the time on there.
Yes.
And be like,
yes.
yeah. That's an excellent idea. And I think that we don't even have to promote Pantheon directly from there, but we could say, like, if you would like a demo site that's, if you'd like a more permanent site, check out and link them back to that page of like all the possible ways that you can install Backdrop. And each one of those can have like, this is a local site, this is a hosted site, this is a whatever, and have the pros and cons of each right there. So yeah, that's an excellent point. I don't think we need our temporary workaround of using ZenCI to create a fake pull request that will have a site on it, although that would have been a good workaround if we didn't already have the tugboat thing mostly done. But I think that Nate's gotten that close enough now that we just need to figure out how to get the landing page thing done, and we're good to go on that one. All right, I do still think it would be super valuable to have a video tour of all the cool things the Backdrop can do. I was thinking about reaching out to Brian. This is a client of mine who has the Bootfitter site. He's also doing a bunch of his own Backdrop sites, like smaller ones for other parts of his company and for his personal stuff. He's fairly technical and he has a lot of experience making videos. And so I thought that might be a good task to just kind of offload to someone else and say, hey, can you spend a couple of hours one day making a video? We can even help with like an outline of like things we'd like you to show off, but have him do it from his perspective of being a technical site builder. That might be super valuable because I think that persona matches what we're looking for in Backdrop's audience. These are technical architect people that maybe aren't getting into the code, but they understand, their business model, their content structure, and want to build something that maps to that. So I'm going to reach out to him and see if he has time to do that. But if anyone else really wants to do that, having lots of those sort of things, I think is really valuable to Backdrop. So I don't want to say, don't do it because I have someone in mind. I would say, if you can do it, make it happen. And if we get more than one of those, that's great. I think that's the kind of stuff that's going to be great content for Twitter. It would be great to write a blog post about. Like, there's a lot of valuable outreach opportunities around having quality video content like that.
How long do you think would be the running time for something like that? A video that went through
So I think there's an audience for like a 1 minute, like high level conceptual thing. And there's an audience for an hour of like, this is how you build a view. So I would say like anyone who wants to make something like that, just do whatever you think is good, because I think that all of them have value. A 1 minute thing would be great for like Twitter, right? Where someone's just like, oh, this Backdrop thing, oh, that looks interesting. And then they like scroll past it. And a longer thing would be great for someone's like, no, I actually need to solve a problem. And I'm going to watch this thing because there's a section on like how to set up responsive drop-down menus, or whatever it is.
Backdrop in 6 seconds for Vine.
There you go.
I think I mentioned Backdrop to a few people in Drupal's Health, but they were fairly busy people. So they were interested, but at the same time, they just in the middle of proposals and stuff like that. So they don't have time. And what I found valuable was pointing them to the slides of a history, which is also an outline of the differences between D7 and us, like the improvements that we have along the time, all that time, like the 4 or 5 years. So here's a thought. Jen, how would you feel about adding another task for the minor releases to be updating the history slides?
I think that sounds amazing.
Yeah. So
I also think like we don't have a, I mean, maybe there is already a thing on there where it's like update the roadmap. Put it in the same place where it's like all of our documentation about like, so I think the presentation is called Backdrop Past and Future or something like that. We did it for Badcamp this year. It has like a slide for every minor release that talks about the new features that went in. And it's a really compelling when you look at all of it all at once. You're like, wow, like the software has gotten a lot better in the last 4 years, which is, I think, great. So I would love to see that as part of that, because that's the kind of thing that we know at that moment what those things are. But like a year later, we might be like, what went into 112? I don't remember. So yes.
Yes, and I was looking at the slides, and when I eventually find some time and energy to fix them, the only concern that I had was that we were referring to a lot of things that Backdrop fellows will know, as if Basis now has this, and people don't know what Basis is.
Right.
So yeah.
could you just like annotate on there, like I mean, I don't know, you could do a pull request against a repository if you wanted to. That's probably what you would do anyway if you left to your own devices. But yeah, just kind of note those things, because that's the kind of thing that, like, when Nate is writing those slides, it's very much from his brain and not from the perspective of someone who isn't following along. So, and I think also when we're giving a presentation on it, there's more time to like explain those things. But in the slides, when someone's just looking at it, we need to do a better job of
Yeah,
making the slides be clear.
I'll put some sort of like small quotes or explanation at the bottom as well. But since they're MD files, they are, aren't they? I think
No,
they
it's HTML, CSS. It's
right.
Vue.js.
I'll file pull requests for it.
Okay.
It's easy.
Yep, should be. Yay! Yeah, that would be great. And that presentation is also fantastic too. If anybody wants to give that at an event, those slides it's just kind of like a history of like, this is what happened in what order. And you don't need to have a lot of understanding of any of those things in particular to be able to read through the entire slide deck. It's just, and it's a great overview for people who are curious about like what has been happening in Backdrop and didn't have any context beforehand. So that's the kind of presentation I think anyone can give if you're interested in giving a presentation, and if it's, pare it down, rework it, whatever, submit pull requests. I would love to see more of that out there for people to digest.
Where are those slides again?
So we have a repository called Slides in the Backdrop Ops GitHub group.
Yeah,
and in there's a whole bunch of files. I think there's a like index.html file that links to each one that says what each presentation is and says how long it is. And then if there's like a demo associated with it, there's also an outline for the demo in there. So I think that Font Awesome icons might be broken the latest version because Nate updated the Font Awesome library, but then a bunch of the presentations were referencing the previous one. So let me fix that. But other than that, I think all of the presentations are sort of in a ready to go mode, and you can look at them using github.io. There's a link in the top of the repository that says this is how you can view all the slides. So if you wanted to just kind of look through them without presenting, anyone can go and like watch the slides there that way too. So, yes. And if anyone gives a talk on Backdrop, we would love to have more slides in there. So feel free to add your own. Definitely like add if you wrote the slide deck or whatever, attribute yourself in there somehow. But yeah, having a shared repository for people to be able to grab content from, I think is going to be super valuable. And especially if you have like cool graphics or anything like that. Those are useful for us.
Luca posted a comment with a link to the slide index.
Oh, there we go. Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you.
So if you remove the slides thing, you'd probably get into the GitHub repo, so you can file pull requests to change those things.
Yeah, I did an intro to Backdrop presentation to Berkeley Drupal Users Group, a couple of years back. So I should probably go and
throw it in.
Yeah.
So this helps. Yeah, it's sort of like a toolkit for presenters. Like if you need something, you can either you can even like fork the repository and just have, if you want to add your own or translate them, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, blog posts. We were supposed to write a blog post on Badcamp. I don't think anybody wrote a blog post on Badcamp. I think I talked to 2 people who said they would do it, but nobody did.
Wasn't Jack going to do something?
Yeah, but Jack's super busy, so I don't know. I might ping them and see.
Jack popped into Slack about the time that he was supposed to deliver it and said that he was just wasn't able to do that. So
okay.
I mean, I think it was his intention to try later, but couldn't at that time.
Okay. Well, it would still be good to have one. I might write up something that's like super short and just says what happened. Maybe links to the new past and future talk, since that seems to be appreciated by people. We did something new. It's exciting. Okay, and then Tim, you made a blog post. It was a different one than that one, though.
I did the one about the birthday party, planning a birthday party, but I've been gathering notes for this, the contributing, maintaining a module. Yeah, but it's not ready yet, but we did one we did 2 actually this week, because we did announcing the new main core committer at Herb, and we did.
That's great. Nate did one. And
we did mine. So but I could have that ready maybe next week.
Okay, that's fantastic. Whenever, I think we're doing, one every 2 weeks is good, and I would rather have one every 2 weeks than like one every week for 3 weeks in a row and then nothing.
Right.
So if you want to wait another week, feel free to write it and leave it unpublished, or schedule it for whenever you want. Yeah, that would be great. Now that we can schedule things, it's pretty exciting. Another thing too is that I have the folks at Facet Interactive who they are helping us with our outreach and marketing in general. I have sent them our GitHub issue for community spotlights and asked them if they could do some of the interviews for us and write up some of the responses for those, just so that we have a backlog of content, so that anytime 2 weeks go by and we don't have content, we can just publish like, oh, you know, here's something on Herbduel, who's our new maintainer. That might be a really great community spotlight to do. We could do another one that's like, oh, you know, here's something on Duck Wilmot and everything that he's been doing for Backdrop for forever. You know, here's a new person, like Opie showed up less than a year ago, started being a core committer before it became a contributor, just stuff like that. BW Panda has been around since the very beginning. I would love to see more just information about these people who have been really valuable assets to our community, and just give them a little more credit and a little thanks, and like show everybody how amazing this community has been so far. It'd be great. So yeah, I sent them off a list of questions. I also said, you know, those are the list of questions that we came up with initially for that, but if they had any feedback on like what might make those stories more compelling, to add new questions there. And so hopefully at the next meeting we have with them, I think it's this week, I think it's next week, I'll be able to check in with them and see if that's getting any progress too, because I'd love to get a queue of those as well, maybe even scheduled for our blogs. All right, let's see, other blog post ideas. We do need several Conservancy items. Just so you guys know, we are officially a member of the Conservancy. We haven't been accepting money through the Software Freedom Conservancy because there's a little issue with their PayPal thing. So if you go to our contributions page, you can pay through PayPal through the Conservancy. But they are integrating with another open source software project, which I met one of the guys who's working on it, that is a better way to transact money for nonprofits, so it doesn't have to go through PayPal. And so they're going to try and set up some integration through Software Freedom Conservancy. And this company, I wish I could remember what its name was. I have a card somewhere, but it's not in my brain at the moment. And then I was also thinking that might be a good time to work with the people who are making that software to make a Backdrop module that's like, hey, do you want this way to collect money for nonprofits to have a module for Backdrop? That would be great. And then also propose to the Software Freedom Conservancy that we could help update their website with a Backdrop site using this module to take this money. So I had all these great ideas about how to put all the things together with all the people that we'd like to work with, but it's a lot of work. So I haven't actually proposed it to anyone because they will probably ask me to do it. So maybe next year things are a little calmer. But it seemed like a great way that we could get all of these people with like similar visions to work together and improve everything for everyone. So I also think that once we get that tool integrated, we'll be able to do things like set our own price points for t-shirts and hoodies and have that money more easily deposited into the correct accounts for Software Freedom Conservancy. Whereas right now we have this thing where you can like buy a t-shirt or a hoodie, but they don't have a form like that works for the Software Conservancy's PayPal account because PayPal is weird. So getting off PayPal will solve a lot of those problems. So I'm looking forward to getting that worked out. And so one of the reasons we haven't done a huge announcement about being part of the Software Freedom Conservancy is because we want to send a promotional email to ask people for donations to kind of kickstart our campaigning efforts, because we haven't really done any campaigning for Backdrop since the initial release. And I think being like, hey, we're part of this nonprofit would be a great way to do it, because now people can get tax deductions for those donations. But until we have a clean way for them to do so, I don't want to send that promotion. So it's been like a year, but we're going to get it done. So that's that. We also have a blog post that needs to come from Nate. I was thinking it would be great to have a blog post on security, although we haven't had any super urgent security releases that make it really relevant anymore. I know, Gregory, you had one, so maybe that's enough for now. We can wait for Drupal getting 5 or something and then do the next one. Integrations with external services could be really great. Next version of Backdrop. Anything else people think is relevant? So Tim, you've been really great about having good ideas about things you want to see on the blog. I would encourage anyone to do that as well. Go ahead and write a blog post. If you have a backdropcms.org account, you can do so. you can, I wonder if everyone has permission to schedule things. I will check on that. But I think right now the only people that have permission to publish it are editors. So if any author has permission to schedule it, that might be an issue. But I haven't looked, so I don't know. But we'll see. So far, we do not have an overwhelming amount of blog posts going live, so I'm not too worried about it. But yeah, we can figure it out.
Then with the blog posts like Conservancy, when it's been a year, a way to save face, because we haven't done it on time, is just when it's the anniversary of the year, it's like, yay, 1 year of being.
That would be great. And I think like it was in January when we finally got it set up. So that would be a good way to do it too. I'm not sure they're going to have the integration with their new payment system by January, but that might be a good time for Nate's blog post to come out, where it doesn't involve a request for money, but it would just be like an announcement.
Yeah, and they, like if Nate gets to it or someone, because what we said, Nate is really busy, and what we said, if he can just make to the point, then one of us will jump in and just fill in the things and the niceties. If we do want to mention the money thing, it's like coming soon. If it's not ready by the time that the blog gets published, I mean.
Yep, that sounds great. Good idea.
Another thing that just came up to my mind now is that we do have revisions enabled for blog posts in b.org. I think there was a thing, I'm not sure if it's the diff module that was, I think we also use that or part of that for the configuration diff when we import it. So it's a good way to collaborate with people. Just allow people to write but not publish content, and then if there's typos and then people want to amend things, they can create revisions. And if we had that diff thing, we could compare to see what was changed, and then people with permission to publish could just check that.
I don't think so far. I don't think there's been a lot of changes to people's blog posts. I think initially we had one where we tried to sort of redo it in Backdrop's like official voice, and that did not go well because blog posts are supposed to be in the voice of the people who are writing them, not in the voice of the website they're on. And so we dropped it after that. And so now we're just like, we look over the content and we go, looks great. And the only things we'll correct is if there's something that's like factually inaccurate or like adding a link to something. I mean, it's very minor things, or grammar. So I don't know. I mean, I feel like the more people write, maybe the more this becomes important. But so far, the change has been making it super minor. Be like, oh, I fixed the grammar in this sentence. Please review and let me know if you think it's okay. And they're like, oh yeah, that's better. Thanks. That's kind of it.
I was more mentioning it because it was changes like that, but because we are in different time zones or we are busy, they're gonna come. Like it's more like we're not all at the same place at the same time to collaborate.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
because comments are not enabled on the blog, so that someone can say, "Hey, you know what? There's a typo there," and not everybody has permission to
fix stuff.
Yeah, or edit other people's. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I haven't used the diff module, which is why I'm hesitant. I don't know what it does or doesn't do, or what work it might need to make it work with Backdrop. Have you used it before? I feel like the best thing to do would just be throw it in the code base and try it like on local sites and see what happens. And if it works fine,
I'll probably file a ticket in the b.org queue. Yeah, and I'll throw some screenshots in.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Backdrop Planet. So a couple weeks ago, we did a Twitter survey, and a whole bunch of people said, yes, I want a Backdrop Planet. And then we did another survey and says, okay, who's going to make content for it? And there were a whole bunch of nothing. So that's kind of how we're experiencing our own blog, is that everybody wants content. We have a hard time generating it. Tim recommended setting up a schedule so we publish everything on time. And if we had a schedule, it would make sense to have a planet that at the very least just published what came out on our blog. And that would be a great starting point. And then as we have more people who start creating content on Backdrop, they can add themselves to the planet in the same way. I think that sounds great. I think it would be good to start the schedule in January and the planet in January at the same time. I think all the plan it needs to be right now is just an RSS feed of our blog, which is a very easy thing to start. And then I do have a port of aggregator module working on one or two of my contrib sites. So I know that we could use that too if we wanted to use aggregator module in the same way that Drupal.org does their planet. So it might also be worth sort of turning this ticket into, okay, we can go forward on it and start building it and just see what happens in terms of people who want to add their stuff to Planet. What might be good is to take a look at how Drupal handles requests for people to add their own blogs to Planet and create a similar queue somewhere for us. Like we might need a special backdrop Planet repository in order to manage those things differently. Or we might need a tag in the Drupal.org queue if we want to manage them with a backdrop.org queue. But just kind of do a review of like, how does Drupal manage this? So do we think that we want to do it the same way? And then creating some sort of infrastructure for handling those requests so that anyone who wants to get on the Planet has a clear path to do so.
Were you around at the time of the creation of Drupal Planet?
No, that predates me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it strikes me that you know, rather than sort of wish for content that's not there and try to hope it into being, we might be able to get a jump on that by reusing existing content. I mean, I would both like and think it's kind of plausible to easily create something that's just like an index of like, okay, like don't know what backdrop is? Well, here's a link that has it all, that has like, you know, a link to the site, a link to the Wikipedia page, a link to all the YouTube videos, a link to all the articles, like just basically anything you can find, have it there. And then you're starting with something like you've got like, okay, here's the stuff. And as things feed into it, you know, adds on top of that pile. Does that sound plausible or?
Well, we do already have the backdrop mentions section on our website where anyone who's noticed an article about backdrop can add it. So that could be the person who wrote it. It could also be anyone else who came across it and read it. It's under the news section. So I think that's a good starting point for all of that content. Like we have all the content. We just need to figure out how to get it into that format loop where you can be like, here's the starting point, here's what you need. All
right. Well, that's actually, you know, I might as well volunteer for something else and see if I actually do this one. Let me go to mentions and scrape it and see if I can do something like that.
Okay, that'd be great. All right. Newsletter. So we haven't had a lot of news recently, but we have recently, but before that we hadn't. So now we have enough stuff that we can probably send a newsletter. So I think the next meeting we have with the folks at Facet, I'll ask them to get going on the next meeting based on our previous few blog posts. I think the one about our new core maintainer is probably going to be the lead for the newsletter, and then we'll also kind of pitch the other more recent ones about, you know, little promos that come later. All right, then we have videos. We talked a little bit about videos previously. We have a new update, so now could be a good time to how to update a backdrop site on Pantheon. Could be good. Maybe I'll see if I can do that today since I have a lot of Pantheon sites to update. That could be a good test case for that. I also have unbranded pages on my local site right now because I was doing a 5-minute demo at the Nonprofit Developer Conference recently. So that might be ready to go too. Anyone else wants to do it, obviously jump in. But other ideas about things that you love or hate about Backdrop and you want to make a video about it, I think the more Backdrop we can get in video form, the better. So just encourage anyone who has any urge or desire to do anything like that to just jump in and do it. We have a YouTube channel that we can add anyone else's videos to. So if you make us aware of the fact that it exists, we will add it to that feed so anyone who's wanting to see videos on Backdrop can find it.
What's your preferred screen recorder tool these days?
I mean, I don't know. I really like to just use a Google Hangout screen share thing because it'll automatically post to YouTube. But there are a bunch of great tools. I think there's one called ScreenFlow. I'm not sure if you have to buy that or not. It might be expensive. That's really good. I really like, there's this thing called Jing that lets you make like a 5-minute video, but it posts to screencast.com, and I don't think there's any other place that you can post it. So I'm not sure, like that wouldn't make a good YouTube video, but it would make a great content for like a tweet or something. Hold on, my dog wants to leave the room.
Hey, look.
Yeah?
Are you on Mac or Windows? What are you using?
I'm on a Mac, but I have access to Windows if that's a differentiating factor.
They found a cool open source app that works really nice. I'm just trying to... Yeah, I'll PM you.
Okay. I mean, I've done screen capture.
It's called, I found it, sorry, it's called CAP with a K, K-A-P.
Okay. Yeah, I've done screen captures with QuickTime. I used to record the classes that I would teach with that, but yeah.
Yeah, I was asked to do tutorials for GovCMS recently, and I've been using that. It's really easy to use and lightweight, and it gets the job done. And most of all, it's open source. So.
Yeah. No, my dream is to do a green screen thing with, like, a little outline of myself in front of.
I'm not sure that it's supposed to.
I know. I've got the Adobe Creative Suite, so I've got Premiere and After Effects and that kind of stuff. I just haven't played with them, but I want to.
Okay, really quickly, tweets. Is there anything going on in the world of Backdrop that we should be tweeting about right now?
I'm a caveman. I don't have Twitter and Facebook, so I wouldn't know.
Okay. Events. Last event was the Nonprofit Developer Summit, which was fantastic as usual. Next event is probably Florida Drupal Camp. I'm going to leave off Drupal South from here, Gregory, because you said you were doing like Drupal stuff on that one instead of Backdrop stuff. But if you wanted to write something up.
Yeah. I did speak to a couple of guys, but there was not much going on because it was too... so there's this big event that happened where we took over from the previous platform, and everyone was, even the government people that were there were involved around that. So there was no room for, something else. It was just the big event for Australia. So, which it was like open source, open data, open everything thing.
Okay. So we have Florida Drupal camps in February, mid-camp in Chicago's in March. I don't know of any Drupal events in January, but we could check DrupalCal and see. But both of those I know have people who have submitted sessions on Backdrop. So it's exciting. And then meetups. We have new meetups starting January 15th, 2019. We're gonna have a big party celebrating Backdrop's 4th birthday and Drupal's 17, 13, 18. Drupal comes of age.
Drupal can vote.
So yeah, that'll be fun. And then I think Tim's also started a meetup in Twin Cities. He's not here anymore. He had to drop off, but he started a meetup in Twin Cities, I think starting this month on the 15th. Oh, that's in 2 days. So I don't know what time that's going to be, but I'm going to see if I can join remotely. It is intended for in-person stuff, so there may not be a remote thing, but something that sounds really cool. And that's it for the outreach meeting, which is good because we only have 4 minutes left before we have to start the weekly meeting to check in on core development stuff. There's a ton of exciting stuff that's happening in core development, so if you want to come to that, we will see you in 4 minutes. Before we leave, is there anything else, like open Q&A? Luke, anything you want to talk about that wasn't on the agenda today?
No,
Okay.
I'm good.
All right. Well, then we'll go ahead and wrap this meeting and see you guys on the interwebs.
See ya.
Bye.